Browns have put the bat signal up looking for some help, and David Njoku has answered the call. He was in New Orleans on Radio Row leading up to the Super Bowl, and he talked about Myles Garrett's trade request and him doing everything in his power to keep Myles in Cleveland. So here's what the Chiefs said. Come on, dog. Stay home, bro. He knows who I'm talking to. Stay home. Come on. Give it another shot. We ain't that far off, honestly. I think we're close, man. We just need a healthy and good quarterback. Let's dissect and break down what the Chiefs said. First off, he is the man for the job. If you are looking for an ambassador for Andrew Berry to try and persuade Garrett to stay with the Browns, there's no one better for this job than David Njoku. Since he was drafted to the Browns, he's had some turmoil early in his career, but the last 4 or 5 seasons, he talks like he is an ambassador for the team and more so for the city. The guy loves Cleveland. When Micah Parsons tried to throw some shade at the city, he shot that shit down real fast. He has embodied what it is to be a Cleveland Brown. He's a fan favorite. He is the man for the job. So this is a Hail Mary type desperation heave. I don't think Andrew Berry deployed Njoku to try and get some good PR points and try and sway Myles over to the Browns. I think Njoku's doing this on his own accord, but this is maybe not the one final, heave, but this is we are trying everything in our power to make sure Myles does not get traded. And step number 1 is change his mind on wanting a trade. So you are putting Njoku out there, and he is going to do his best to try and keep 95 in Cleveland. I also just want to expand on the way Njoku ended that quote. In the actual clip, which unfortunately I can't share because of copyright laws and whatnot, but when he was talking with the guys from, I believe it was Bleacher Report, and then he also talked with Mary Kay, he brought up, we just need a healthy and good quarterback. In real time, he kind of stuttered a little bit and paused and was thinking of the most diplomatic way to say, Myles Garrett, please come back. We're not going to run it back with Deshaun Watson anymore. Like, that was his way of articulating without being too confrontational about it. Watson is not going to be this quarterback of the team anymore. We're moving on, and all the team leaders know this. So clearly, Garrett, Ward, and Njoku, 3 captains of this team, 3 leaders of this team in the last 5-6 days have all said, we need a good quarterback. So when those guys are putting that out there, it's pretty clear to me that the message has trickled down to some of the higher-ups in the locker room. We're going to find a new quarterback. We don't have that with our current roster anymore. Now, this entire quote kind of reminded me of a quote from the AFC North Hard Knocks show, when Myles said this back in December. I've talked to Barry. How are we going to make the most of all the talent that is here? We're closer than some may think we are. If I could ask Garrett one question, it would probably be, what changed from then until now? That wasn't that long ago, right? That wasn't like in October when the team was 2-4 or 1-5, whatever their record was. No, that was just a few weeks ago where he's saying we're closer than some people realize we are. So what changed from then until now? I can only come up with one theory, and it's Garrett, in his multiple meetings after the season with the front office, learned that the plan at quarterback moving forward in 2025 at least is they are going to go with the bridge quarterback. And my suspicion is Garrett internalized that and came to the conclusion they are not going to win a Super Bowl with a bridge quarterback in 2025, which means they draft a quarterback in 2026, which they are likely not going to win on his rookie year. And that means at earliest, they win a Super Bowl 3 years from now. And now he's 32. And if they don't win at earliest, which would be, an NFL, tying an NFL record, right? Didn't Russell Wilson win it in his second year and Ben Roethlisberger won in his second year? So we're talking about best case scenario, you set or tie an NFL record of a second-year quarterback winning a Super Bowl. It's probably not going to happen in the near-ish future. at least in Myles' eyes, and based on the timeline that the Browns are working under. And he does not want to be a part of yet, not even another rebuild, but spending more years of his prime not in serious contention where they feel like, hey, it's us, the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Bills, and the Ravens. No, they're not in that crew. And right now, that party is 4 teams, Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, 3 teams. And the Browns are not a year or two away from joining that mix unless they were to strike gold in the NFL draft. And that is once a 15-year thing. And it happened this past year with Jaden Daniels, so the football gods are telling us it's not going to happen for another 10 or 15 years where a rookie quarterback takes you all the way to the championship game. That's what my best inclination is as to how Garrett went from we're not that far away to I want to trade. He learned about a bridge quarterback path and thought, ooh, not that we can't win with a bridge quarterback, but we can't win meaningful playoff games with a bridge quarterback. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I want out. All right, before we get any further in today's episode, because David Njoku also talked about who he wants the Browns to take at number 2, which you rarely see a player just come out and say what their preferred pick is. But let me ask you this question here. Do you guys think Garrett will end up getting traded? The Browns have said they have no interest in trading him. Andrew Berry said he would say no to 2 first-round draft picks. Who's going to blink first? Who's going to flinch? Is Garrett going to change his mind if a big, fat contract comes across the table? Or are the Browns going to stand firm and move into July, August with probably a holdout incoming from Myles? I think it's going to be a trade, but I think it's going to get ugly. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. One other quote, though, like I said, from Njoku that I wanted to share before we get to who he wants to take at quarterback. At number 2, which, spoiler, it's a quarterback. Njoku said this, "For me, I'm Cleveland ride or die. I hope Myles tries to stay. That's like a brother to me, obviously, so I'm going to talk to him and see what I can do." It's almost like the Browns just sent the Hulk to the radio row because he comes out shirtless, by the way, which is just the most Njoku thing ever. And they're like, all right, we are going to play our queen now. We're going to put Njoku on the field and see what he can do for us down in NOLA. But after reading that quote or listening to it and then rereading it now, yesterday's video we talked about blowing it all up. Trading Denzel Ward since he talked about maybe wanting to be traded if Myles goes. And then I mentioned, hey, Newsome and Njoku are other players who could be traded. Even if you get a good offer for Njoku, I wouldn't trade him. Because a good offer would probably be a 4th-round draft pick. Just given his age and injury history, you're not going to get anything from rounds 1 through 3. And for a 4th-round pick, you could find a good player. But I don't want to move on from someone who is clearly so important to this locker room and just fucking loves the city of Cleveland. This is a city that does not get this much love and attention from players. It's not Los Angeles. It's not New York. It's not this big hub of a destination. So when you find players who love the city as much as Njoku does, you keep those guys. Like, if someone gives you an unrealistic trade offer, let's talk them, but that's not going to happen. Like, no one's going to give you a 2nd-round draft pick for him at this point. Not that he's bad, but it's just not the way trade values work for older players on a bit of an expensive deal. So if someone called up and said, hey, can we give you a 4th-round pick for Njoku? I'd say no. I'd say no, thank you. It's a fair offer. It's a good offer, and we could do a lot of good things with that pick. But we don't want to move on from someone who is so important to our locker room. All right, next up on today's episode, I want to go over who the Chief wants Cleveland to take at the number 2 spot. If you know where he went to college, you can probably figure this out on your own. But before we get to that, quick shout out to Game Time. Game Time has an awesome feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you do not have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One thing I really like about Game Time is their all-in pricing option. You can toggle this feature when you start to search for tickets, and that way you can know exactly what you are paying before you get to checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. I put all that information for you guys in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So as I was saying, Njoku down in New Orleans for a Radio Row tour, and he was asked, what do you want the Browns to do at pick number 2? And surprise, surprise, here's what he says. Miami boy, come on. It doesn't get any better than that. I do love his game, talking about Cam Ward. I watch him a lot. I can see, catching passes from him. So not a big surprise here that Njoku is advocating for the quarterback from his alma mater. But just so we're all 100% clear and no one gets any crazy ideas, this has zero influence on what the Browns do with the number 2 overall pick. There are so many instances of teams not letting guys like Tom Brady or Peyton Manning influence what they do with their first-round draft pick. They are not letting David Njoku influence them because he likes his alma mater's quarterback. No. But it does give us a little bit of an excuse to talk about Cam Ward because he's had a good pre-draft process. It's so weird in the pre-draft process because for some good reason or not, these guys' values go up and down despite not playing a game since December for a lot of these players here. But we got to remind ourselves that Ward is coming off a really breakout explosive season. And I don't want to say it's reminiscent of Jayden Daniels, but a little bit in the regard of he's a player who played a lot of football in college. And it wasn't until the last year or so he started to really get into a rhythm. And now we saw what Daniels did in the NFL. But I don't like making that comparison as a complete apples to apples since Jayden Daniels was a Heisman winner his last year and he did incredible stuff with LSU. And I think we can all agree Daniels' final year in Baton Rouge was better than Ward's final year at Miami. So while it's somewhat understandable to go, look what the Commanders just did. They took Daniels at number 2 and look how far they got. Why can't we do the same thing? Because this is not Jayden Daniels. But I do like that Cam Ward and Jayden Daniels, if they both have good NFL careers, are showing a successful path of it's okay to stay in college for an extra year or two. And you might be a little bit older when you come out, but I love the experience that players can acquire in college. And it's always been a slight sports pet peeve of mine. This applies more so to the NBA when teams just take freshmen that can jump out of the gym and are 6'7", have a great wingspan, but didn't actually play all that well in college. But, well, they have really good intangibles, so we're going to take them 15th overall over guys who were actually good on the court. That's just always been something that kind of drives me nuts. So the same somewhat applies to football, where if you've got a guy who played college football for 4, maybe 5 seasons and showed incredible improvement, well, that's someone to me that screams they are going to work really hard at improving their craft when they get to the next level. And those are players I like to bet on. So I know I've been pretty pessimistic about the entire quarterback class. And if there was a quarterback that I would want the Browns to take at number 2, it would be Cam Ward. If they put a gun to my head and said, hey, you got to take a quarterback, who is it? I would pick Ward because I do think that the live arm he has and the ability to make a lot of difficult throws is something that you can really sink your teeth into. It kind of reminds me of Jameis in a way. I just think he's like Kirkland Jameis. There will not be as many touchdowns and there won't be as many interceptions, but you're going to have a lot of what was that? And sometimes that's fun, but we've seen Jameis hop around a little bit, and I don't think it's going to last or it's going to stick because of the turnover-worthy plays that we saw from Ward his last year. But if a coach can coach that out of him, you're going to get a Jameis without the interceptions, and, well, that's a really good quarterback right there. So pick a quarterback for me. If you had to make the decision between Ward or Sanders, who would it be? It's also important to remind ourselves, the Browns are not picking first overall. I think some people have jumped to the conclusion of, I want Ward, I want Ward, I want Ward. If the Titans take Ward first overall, you don't get him. So have a backup plan, because when you pick second, you need one. Let's end the video today with a card selection. Reed is back on the 1s and 2s. Reed, which card do you want to go with?
I've missed this.
Dylan got it while you were gone.
Oh, you gotta be joking.
Yeah, that did happen.
There's no way.
And
come on.
I picked the card and then changed my mind, and it was the card that I originally thought of. So it's been a eventful week of card picking. What's more eventful, Myles Garrett trade request or the card picking?
Card picking.
Yeah, probably.
I was gonna go with 8 of diamonds, so I'm going with King of clubs.
That's what I did in it.
I'm going with King of clubs.
I like the math though.
Your own
respect the process.
Your own process messed you up.
Yep. So you're going with what's your final one? King of clubs. My gut tells me 4 of hearts, but that's wrong. So I'm switching to 7 of diamonds. No. 6 of hearts. 6 of hearts. That will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys for watching. We will be back with more content for the rest of the weekend, and I'll see you all then.